All right. Namaste, everybody. And this is continuation, and there will be a little bit of overlap um, with the last one because one of the participants uh, asked a very relevant question, and that was that if the Americans and the West, they are not, they are like viewing Indian history in a derogatory manner, then how is it that yoga and meditation has become very popular? So that was the question which is going to be answered today. And so our ancient beginnings. So this is where how the rise of the civilization began and how where did it begin? You see, I try to explain in the very first one the way the planet is. Indian subcontinent is the largest mass which can be cultivated, pastoral land in the on the bulge of the planet. So in that case, we rule out the lasting civilization and cultures in Central America and also in the Pacific Ocean because there are not any bigger land masses. So this is a map. This is from Mahabharata time. And courtesy of Dr. Bhudev Sharma, he gave me the permission. Now you see, this is the subcontinent, and all of these have Indian names. And there is a Saraswati in Sindhu River, and this is Saraswati River. And look at the number of. Why I'm showing this map that other than these mountains and the plateau and the coastal ranges and the plains here, we have the largest land which is available for agriculture. And because of the diverse climates, it lends to variety of vegetation and forests and even the species of birds and animals. So, having said that, this map must be remembered by everybody. Every student should know what India actually was and what we have lost in the last 1,000 years and how did we lose. But this landmass is the most important part of Eurasia. Approach and interpretation. Now, this brings us the question that was raised last time that history can be interpreted in several ways, depending who is the compiler, right? So, some people are prejudiced, of course. If you are ruling us, you will consider us down, 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 much like very inferior species. And to justify that rule and the looting of the Indian resources, they invented the concept of race. Everybody thinks that there are three races, Mongoloid, Caucasians, and Negroid. That's not there. Humanity is a humanity. We are all made of interchangeable parts. It's not that Negroid can avoid or cannot take my kidney or anything. So we are all, there is no such thing as race. So that is one thing. Race is the single most invention of the West during the turmoil of Reformation and a whole lot of stuff was going on, inquisitions. And that is when, in order to rule and make colonies, they invented the race. And then they said that the brown is inferior race and we'll see. So right away there is prejudice. Right away. The moment you consider prejudge the other person without knowing that person, that confuses. That confuses the reader, and the past is not accessible, and that threatens the future. If we do not know our past, we do not know the continuity of the Indian civilization and culture, cohesiveness of culture, our next generations will not be understanding or continuing that tradition. And it is already happening because that prejudice is passed on by the West. And I think that is the reason why they are demonizing. They don't want Indian knowledge system to come up unless they have digested it and they have presented it as their own. The second approach that Indian history has been written is sociological approach, where the society is divided and there's a conflict, continuous chaos, and it is a hierarchy going up and down, and no mobility between the varnas. So this is the sociological approach. The ruling party is Brahmin. When were the Brahmins ruling party? Not any stage in the history of ancient India, or even after that. Pandit Nehru was by name Pandit, and that doesn't count. But other than that, in the entire history, Brahmins were never the ruler. In fact, in every single scripture, Samriti, it says Daridra Brahman. What does that mean? That it poor Brahman was at the door. So they are Daridra, poor and no power. What was their power? The knowledge system they had. And that is how they became so important and valuable for the dynasties and kings and for culture. The next approach is use of anthropology. You see, I read a history, actually, Rutgers University is using that book. It is territorial and regional and tribal identities of India. This is how history is written. I read the book and I gave a very negative. I said this book should be out. It should not be in the curriculum at all, not even as I recommended it. So that is anthropology. Like, people are broken, tribals, and continuous uh, uh, discrimination against them, and the whole lot. The next one is Marxist ideology. That is what in the last 75 years Indian government has done, uh, promoting on the name of secularism, Marxist ideology, where the word Dalit is invented. I have never seen this word Dalit in the sense they describe in any of the important Shastras or even Mahabharata. I don't think the word Dalit is used. So then there is Christian mythology. So that is another, you know, thing. Now, Christian mythology is very interesting. I in some of the interfaith conferences, uh, somebody on behalf of the Christian faith, she was speaking and she said, quantum mechanics and quantum physics is was invented by Christians. What are you talking about? So after she finished there for 3 minutes, I said, quantum physics could not be developed unless you know the physics. You see, you 15th century Europe was divided into tribes, and they were just consolidating into small little kingdoms, expanding or retracting. And the earth was flat for them. On it, you have a flat earth, and you are talking about physics and quantum physics. So I say, no way, it's wrong. So this is, and I said, Visheshika explains quantum physics. Then another thing, in recent years, 4 decades or so, suddenly yoga has become Christian yoga. You see, yoga is yoga, it's a Sanskrit word. And Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutra about 200 years before the common era began. So, what are we talking about? So, this kind of thing, amalgam of these approaches has created this problem. Now, Christian mythology, the quantum physics, our own children, instead of learning from the Shastras, Visheshika and Mimamsa, we are learning from American or British sources that somewhere in the 16th century, an anonymous person, because he was afraid of Christians, started this concept of infinity and blah, blah, blah. So, this hoxy-poxy. And since we do not know our own literature and our own past, therefore, we are on the defensive. We accept what they are saying. So, in order to be on the offensive, we should be asking them the questions. And that, where were you? In third century, they were Roman Empire tried to defeat the Germans, and it says Germanic tribes. They were tribal people, no kingdom, and Roman Empire fell down very soon, and a whole lot of things happened. So, what are we talking about? The Renaissance, and in fact, and this is interesting you mentioned that when I was explaining to my own grandchildren the how this uh, notion came, I mean, after Renaissance, the Reformation began. And during Reformation, there were inquisitions, and uh, that awakening did not last. I mean, they were fighting and burning people on the crosses and all kind of. If you visit Europe, you will be amazed to know how many torture chambers there are. The whole country, whole continent is littered with those kind of 50 feet deep holes where people were thrown from above with lead on their feet. So, of course, there is some Western literature which mentions um, and all that. So, one of my grandchildren, she said it was better they instead of Renaissance and all these torture chambers, it was better if Europe kept slumbering. It was better that they had been continued sleeping instead of waking up and creating all this horror. So that particular thing must be brought up that this is what Europe was going through. And you are talking about history of philosophy, and you see, one or two people here and there. Now, reclaiming the chronology is very important because whoever controls the timeline controls the history. And whoever controls the past achievements and claims as their own, uh, we, we are lost because nothing ever happened in India. Ginger was in China, Himalayan salt was discovered in Japan, all this kind of, nothing ever happened in it. And whatever good things are there, that the British started or the Mughals started. Before that, nothing happened. So it is very important to stick with the chronology. So when the river systems were there, the Himalayan 60 million years back, and all the crisscross rivers that I showed in the map, there's not a single region where there are not merging river systems, tributaries, and they are all perennial. So, uh, Now, so tracing the civilizational history of the world is very important. Starting a chronology, I would start 15,000 BC, BCE, because I go by the evidence from paleobotany, the rice husks, which are fossilized in Bihar. So next is, how do they digest the tradition? By manipulation of language and wrong translation. I read some of the books which are in Sanskrit, the ancient Kalidas and others, and they were written in English. One side was Sanskrit, one side was English. And this one of the books said that this Parvati was a tribal. I didn't believe it. How can she be a tribal? First of all, she's not a human being. It's a force, energy. So it is symbolic. But tribal, and then the next thing was equivalent to untouchable. Now this is, I mean, anybody else would be reading, and they will be equating untouchable, tribal, Dalit, oppressed, and all of these things, lower caste. So this is how the language is used. New categories are made, as I said, Dalit and stuff. Yeah, the language. Brahminical. These are new words introduced by Max Muller. Brahminical, Brahmanism. Where is this word coming from? Does it refer to Brahma as the divine entity, or does it um, belong to the Brahmins as a group? Again, very vaguely Brahmanism and very vaguely Brahminical and the disadvantages of that. So this whole nonsense. So new categories are invented and they new boxes are made, regional identity, one box, two box, and two boxes, and then new labels are stuck on them with this new language. So one of them is Aryan. Who is Aryan? Aryan is not a word in Sanskrit. Aryan is not a Sanskrit word. It's neither a noun nor related to language or a race. Arya is a Sanskrit word which is used as sir. Sir. Aryaputri, again, it is a kind of free and like that. So there are several words wrongly translated, caste, tribal, Shudra, and like that. The history tampered with European invasions. Now, here comes another beautiful spin that with the books, globally taught textbooks, they say every time India got some kind of energy and enthusiasm to create the, paintings and architecture, it was always the invaders who started. Alexander came and he started making cities like bacteria and this and that. Bacteria was already there. You could not pronounce it, it was Volhika. And Bukhara was already there. And Gandhar was already there. So there was prosperous kingdoms and civilizations. And Mahabharata, the map, shows all the kingdoms, many kingdoms. So when victors rule, they have to demonize the ruled country. So they are inferior. In fact, the British clubs, they had a label, dogs and Indians are not allowed. So now you understand how much destruction has been done to our heritage, to our history, and we don't have a think tank. Individuals like me and many others here and there, and they write scholarly papers, and they, do the rebuttal. But then rebuttal is published in some academic journal or some university journal, doesn't make a dent in the thinking of the hostile forces. Unless you create a forum or a platform and people who can work on teamwork or build on somebody's work a little better and a little better. It should be a teamwork. That is missing. In fact, if somebody has written a book, you find 20 different faults, like grammar, like this. So racism is one of the ways, barbaric, primitive, destruction of libraries and universities, so evidence is erased. And they did the same to Egyptian civilization also. They burnt the library of Alexandria. And now they are saying that, Hellenic civilization. What Hellenic civilization? You destroyed it. So, and in the next 300 years, Macaulay said that our one shelf is equal to the entire literature of India, one shelf of Shakespeare. Max Muller, he said that by the time I am finished with translating the Vedas, there will not be any Hinduism left. And William Jones, leaning on philology and linguistics, same thing. So distorted translation. Now it is, this is another very interesting point, importance of giving the global, uh, view. Now, global context. Eurocentric view, Hindu-centric view. Now this, in 2010, there was a workshop, 6 days, and Buddhists came from China, and everybody was presenting. Workshop was for the teachers of the charter schools. So by default, the person who was going to talk about Buddhism, he did not show up, and I was there. So they asked me. So I was prepared. I had already written on it. I presented. And while I was talking, the Chinese guy came. He took over the podium, and he was saying, so far we heard the Hindu-centric view of Buddhism. You see, Hindu-centric view. What is Hindu-centric view? He was born in India. He was a Hindu prince, and he lived in India. Gaya is in India. Sanchi is in India. Bhikshu addicts all over the continent. That is India. And we are being called Hindu-centric. And one of my papers for the next seminar was rejected because I was Hindu-centric. What other centric I should be? Cambridge historians' view, Eurocentric view. So, and we are digesting this nonsense. We are tolerating it because we don't have a voice. And we don't want to create a voice. Now, the great civilizations which are taught in America, in Europe, and in India also to some extent. A Greek civilization, Roman civilization, Egyptian civilization, Mali, Mayan, and China. How many people have heard of Mali civilization? Up until the time that I saw this being taught, because I was not in elementary school teachings, when I saw my grandchildren learning Mali civilization, I said, where is Mali? Can you trace it on the map? It's somewhere in Africa. Wow. Mali. Egyptian, Roman, Greek. Mayan. Mayan is sandwiched between the Andes and the Rockies. China. China is north facing the Arctic Ocean. So it cannot be the candidate for starting the civilization. And their own recorded history, in their own books, they say that our recorded history traces back to 2700 BCE. Now you can understand. And how many of these civilizations are still there? Except China, as in Chinese civilization is not there. It's a communist country, no civilization, no culture, except what Mao said or Mao said. So Greek and Roman, not there. Egyptians, not there. Mali was never there. Mayan, not there. So the only surviving civilization for 10,000 years is India, and that's not being taught. So I took it up with Virginia Board of Education, um, 2, 3 persons like-minded. We went to Richmond and had a talk with the Board of Education there. And I said that you can cut short a little bit of Egyptian and a little bit of Mali and start with and include India. That's the only surviving oldest and with continuity that's still there. And it's rising, coming up the surface. So they said, Egyptian civilization takes up so many time. How much time? How many ways you can do the mummifying and use the chemicals, and now let us use the muslin, the whole nonsense. So which of these? Now our question should be this. If we are going to be on the offensive and anybody is talking about this, my question would be, as a student or teacher, which of these is or are alike? Case closed. So what is the relevance of studying in such an elaborate way that you never can forget? It is etched in your brain forever. What is their antiquity? Their antiquity is 300 BCE. That is how the Greeks were. And almost Romans were the same. And they did not use the Egyptian cotton. Muslin for their togas, it used to come from India. And it is written in one of the earliest books that at one point Roman kings said, we are not going to import the muslin from India because our gold resources are depleted, which is very true. Egyptian, Sudanese gold used to come to India in for the muslin. So you can understand if these little things make up a dotted line, how long the line can be and how great that whole thing is. So what is their antiquity? What is their antiquity? Why they didn't survive? If they didn't survive, why talk about that? Just a brief reference is there. History of the planet. Ecology, unfavorable ecology. Greece is just island. Rome is a peninsula with islands, right? Germany is a landlocked country, mostly Alps mountains. France, Netherlands, and England, they were the ocean-going cultures, and therefore, but they are not mentioned. They had no philosophy. They were ignorant of psychology, nature itself. So the question of existence of institutional framework or equitable social structure was not there. Greece had slaves and citizens. And by the way, women were not citizens. So that is how equitable the great Hellenic civilization was. and same is Rome, plebeians and patricians. So now we have to make a strategy to counter that. In the 17th century, 18th century, Voltaire did say that I'm convinced that everything has come down to us from the banks of the Ganges, astronomy, astrology, and it doesn't behove us who were only savages and barbarians. This is his admission. Europe in 17th century, up until that, they were savages and barbarians. Will Durant said recently, 100 years back, India is the motherland of our race and Sanskrit, the mother of Europe's languages. She was the mother of our philosophy, mother through the Arabs of much of our mathematics, mother through Buddha, the ideals embodied in Christianity. This is important. What is Christianity? It is the from Buddha. And some sentences, verses in the Bible are they are literal translation of Bhagavad Gita. That I am the beginning and I am the end. I am all that is in between. So mother through the village community of self-government. And we are talking about that India did not have democratic traditions. We had Panchayat, Janpad, Mahajanpad, and tribal lands. And those Adivasis who didn't belong to any kingdom, they were on their own, like Banas and Kalingas. Those people were so powerful, whenever there were a fight between king, whichever party they joined, whichever side they joined, that one. They were that powerful. So Mother India is in many ways the mother of us all. But that's not now starts the problem of neo-colonialism. Neo-colonialism is started by America. So they said that now England is out of the picture. We have to somehow or other control Indian resources and checkmate their progress and all that. And they are pretty successful in brainwashing us and giving us false notions of history. So, rise of civilization depends on the ecology, the glaciers, the lake, the rising sea level, geography, geology, all these natural resources, the mountain ranges, and how old are the mountain ranges. This is very important. Himalayan mountains are the youngest mountain range, and that's why it is pebbly and muddy and loosely joined together in the lower 4,000 feet height. After that, it becomes more rugged. Whereas Andes and Rockies, nothing can grow on that except here and there a blade of some shrub. So this will also indicate why should the history of India and of the world civilization be taken to at least 8 millennia BC and not 3000 BC. So this is conservative. It's actually, I would say, 18,000. Antiquity of India traced to, okay, cross-referencing is very important. I mentioned this before in the last one. So location, Indian subcontinent is of the shape of a peninsula, which means long coastline on both sides. It is 35-degree latitude north and 10 degrees north above the equator. So it's in the tropics. And the subcontinent is between 60 degrees longitude east and 100 degrees this side. So it's the widest span. Now this is the old map of Saraswati. Very recently, I mean, for me, everything is recent, if it is 15 years ago, because I'm that old. For 15 years, it's just like yesterday for me. So this map is there, and there were two people. One was Raja Ram and one was Kalyan Raman. And they checked all this area, and this map belongs to Dr. Kalyanraman, and this is the old river beds, you see. And Yamuna used to be going and meeting Satluj. And then Satluj met Saraswati, Agra, and Ghaggar. All of them fed Saraswati. This is Saraswati River, which they say mighty Saraswati, because Satluj was giving. So when Yamuna changed the course, it came down this way, it depleted water in this area. Satluj changed course and it met Ravi. And then Vyas was always part of Satluj and moved. Now we have a desert here, Jaisalmer, Bagh. This area is now considered the Great Thar Desert. In American textbook, this is called the Great Thar Desert. What is great? Why these adjectives are added when it is just this area? You see, Jaisalmer. So what are we talking about? And this is if and Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh, said that there is a mythical river which is Saraswati. How shameful it can be when the research is already showing Saraswati River. And Haryana was drilling water from the Paleo channels. And our ex-prime minister was saying this. Okay. So geography between the tropics, plains, coastal ranges, river-fed valleys, abundant natural resources. But ancient kingdoms are to flourish. That is what they need, natural resources. Mineral resources, any mineral that is there. And that is there anywhere in the world is in India, except oil. That also was not discovered at that time. And most of the minerals were used by making alloys. The bronze is an alloy, brass is an alloy. They isolated the iron sulfates. And that is how the mineral resources were. And Indus script itself, which is hieroglyphics, that is not a language system, that is the code language for the traders. People who were trading the shipbuilding materials, resin, or tarpaulin material, each has a guild, like safety, and there are different words for them. And those people, they have their code words so that nobody else copies the formula. The agriculture abundance, a vast variety of vegetation, orchards, forests, teak wood and cedar wood. It was used building ocean-going ships without using iron. So what they did, by plugging the wooden pieces and then joining them with the resin, which is a gooey substance coming from the tree trunk. So a long coastline, flourishing maritime trade, both domestic and international. Almost all of the river basins were supported by prosperous kingdoms. So if you go back to the map, you will see Virat, Hastinapur, Indraprasth, Kalinga, Magad, all of them. So rich deposits of mineral. I mean, Indians don't have to learn from me because this was our third grade geography. When we were students, we knew this geography in third grade. geography of India. Actually, the name was Bhugol. The rest of the world may not know. Bhugol is Earth is round. So, rich mines, precious stones, Kohinoor and Hope diamond. Yeah, this is an interesting thing. All the four textiles, they originated in India. Linen from flax seeds, that flour, and cotton flour, cotton, and jute, and silk, and wool. All of these originated in India. And this dungari material was actually used for making tarpaulin, shiver tent. And now that people are wearing that cloth as jeans, and it is called dungarees. Drunagiri was the place famous for that kind of cloth. So, Cardamom Hills, fauna and flora. If you get a chance, there was a documentary made by Incredible India. No, no, not that. India, the Wonderland. That is the. So there were two parts. It was uh, yeah, on PVC. Yeah. Okay. Climate and the ecological, pastoral, on drinking water, and we had six climates. In American books, it says India has two climates, and they depend on monsoons. Rubbish. We have names for each climate. We have Hemant, we have, after that, we have Basant, actually Bahar, then Basant, then we have Grisham, then we have Monsoon, then we have Shishir, and Sharat, and then Shishir, and like that. So we have six climates. Poor Indians, you see, mentioning them. Their geography created inhabitable conditions, as if Hindus were responsible for their geography. Because they were barbaric, their geography is inhospitable. So, I mean, there is no end to nonsense. It has infinite dimension. The Ganges and its tributaries, Kaveri and its tributaries, I mean, river system, and Neolithic to settled communities was a very short period of time, use of metal. Now, Google created from what angle they took the picture of India, it just looks like a line. If you ever see the Google map on the global setting, you will see India is just a line. And in the minds of the Americans and the American government and everywhere in the academia, India doesn't even exist. They have made it as a, what's the word, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, Myanmar, India, Lanka, Maldives. So everything that went wrong, they refer to India. Caste system, India. Social structure, India. Poverty, India. Everything there was a good, something good that the heading was Southeast Asia. You see, that is the wall of discrimination that we are not able to cross yet. Okay. So, having said that, we have a lot to think about. And that lot is in thoughts and strategies. Are we able today, the like minded people, are we able to create a teamwork, a forum? And when I draw the attention of the very high level scholars in different fields, and they say, Kamlesh ji, aap kis chakkar mein pad gaye? The world is always like that. The world doesn't have to be like that. We have accepted in the world as it is, and therefore it is like that. So I said, somebody had to do it. And he said in Hindi, kahan tak aap ladenge. So that is uh, how enthusiastic we are about creating the teamwork. You see, everybody thinks that they know enough. That enough may not be enough. Even I know that there are at least 500 books which I partially read for research, but I did not complete. And everybody doesn't know the realities. In fact, when the first time in 1982, 82, I went to a friend, I said that, this nonsense is written in the history books, social studies books. And the guy said, you think so? Hare, मैंने कहा, I don't think so. I know so. I have seen the book. And you are the maybe me for thinking like that. So, anyway, now if you have a question connected with this lesson, Gurinder, I am sure I have been able to answer your question that you raised last time.
Yes, thank you so much, Auntie G. This is very, very enlightening as always. And the one thing that came in my mind was, I think on the first or second page of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, suffering, no, desire is the cause of all suffering. And I think that's a big percentage of what Buddhism is. So when I read that, it's hard to not see the connection. What like it's on the first page, I believe, like literally first page. So yeah, thank you for sharing that story.
Psychology is the third chapter, second and third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That is nothing but psychology. So those three chapters. So any other question? Yeah. Somnath ji. बोलिए.
Namaste ji.
नमस्ते जी.
Did you try some astronomy for evidence for our chronology?
Yes.
Okay.
And recently, I have three books which I read. I understood half of it, not even half, because it is so mathematical and so dense. One of them is from dating the Ramayana from the sky charts. It is written by Saroj Bala, and previously the contributions of Pushkar Bhatnagar was there. So in my 2010 book, I had Pushkar Bhatnagar's. And later on, I had Narharacha's, which is in the book, and then Saroj Bala's three books, the dating of the Ramayana, dating of the Mahabharata, and dating of the Vedas. So, and last time in my last talk, I said that Kazanans, referring to astronomy, said that heavens don't lie. People lie, but heavens don't lie. So that is the reference to astronomy. Thank you. Any other question? Yeah.
Yeah, so um uh I think sometimes it's tempting to think this is all the Kali Yuga. Like this is just the age we're in. Like it's a long period of, you know, not the best development and intelligence. Do you think of do you look at it that way, or do you see like a different way if we're thinking in terms of the yugas and where we're supposed to be as a civilization?
Other civilizations are unmentionable because all you see is barbarity. Just take a tour of Europe and see those ancient palaces. Every palace has underneath a dungeon. That still is a dungeon. And Palace of Versailles, I visited, dungeon. And in Germany, it is littered with torture chambers. And English, Tower of London. It is, if you go there, the very first step and the next two steps, they are hard, not marble, stone, and natural stone. And it is all red with the blood. Queen Elizabeth, every time there was a Protestant ruler, the Catholics' blood was there. When Catholic queen or king came, the Protestant. When Puritans came, everybody's blood was there. And then that is when the migration to America started. And you are talking of our ancient civilization in Europe. Europe was a mess. Feudal system, poverty, superstitions, no knowledge. Newton found out the gravity. Without gravity, you cannot understand astronomy. Gravity and this magnetic field. Magnetic field is mentioned in the Mahabharata because the magnetic field of the North Pole has greater attraction, magnetic power than the South. So that is why people living in the Northern Hemisphere, everybody was living in Northern Hemisphere, they used to say that when the Earth tilts towards the north, Uttarayan, that is we should dissolve our body. Because the magnetic field will take it out to the stratosphere and beyond more quickly. Imagine, this is our knowledge system, and Mahabharata is 5,000 years back. Counting. So, I mean, when you go into the depth of these things, even one Shastra, if you read, and then you understand, I was so foolish. You see? And they say, Kalidas was Shakespeare of India. It is the other way around. Shakespeare is Kalidas. Kalidas came earlier than Shakespeare. So you see how the twisting. I really wish I cannot be that. I mean, I really wish I could be younger, 20 years, so that I can, have that kind of mobility and gather some really enthusiastic younger people. But now I'm dependent on the second and third generation. If they can use these books and use all these lessons that I have created for the next generation, that will be very good. At least some people will read and learn. Not everybody, some. You see. So that is up to you now. How enthusiastic you are, how connected you are. How can you make a team? How can you convince others? And how can you build a defense against prejudice? Put them on the spot. When they say caste system, I say I have 4 lines written, which is 1920, written by an Englishman. We pigeonholed the whole society and created caste system. Show it. And I created that page. And I say, keep it in your pocket. And every time somebody says caste, show it. It should be so handy in your pocket. Just one page. So that is how you. One of the watershed moment in this recent United Nations Assembly was that Jaishankar put them on the spot. You see, suddenly they were on the other end, receiving end. And that is what I want. What are you talking about gospel? The world existed before that. And how can you say, 4004, Monday, 9 o'clock, the world was created? Have you taken leave of your senses? I mean, with this kind of mindset, you cannot even uh, take the help of artificial intelligence. After all, that too is created by these bozos. History challenged people. So, anyway, I can go on and on, but coming back to your questions, please do ask.
Kamlesh ji, me again.
अच्छा,
There is this question of motivation ये इन लोग की हिस्ट्री जो ये लोग करते हैं. आपने वो बात रेस करा मंडे 4000 BC समथिंग समथिंग दैट द वर्ल्ड बिगैन. उन लोग का दूसरा सिरे से होता है द एंड ऑफ हिस्ट्री. दे आर सो मैग्नेटाइज्ड बाय द एंड ऑफ हिस्ट्री कि जब हमारा मसीहा दूसरी बार आएगा और वो कयामत और वो रैप्चर बनेगा. So they have this directionality that impels them to shape everything for that destiny point. And we cannot honestly have an honest discussion without openly acknowledging कि ये लोग उस धारा के लोग हैं. They think that history has a beginning and they think that history has an end. इनमें मैं मार्क्सिस्ट को भी जोड़ दूंगा. उनका भी सेम चीज है. Just because they don't do Jesus Christ doesn't mean they are not Christian. वो सारा उसमें ही वो उस लूप में वो लोग अटके हुए हैं.
that's true. What you are saying is that these people have created a doctrine, you see, and an ideology. Marxist is an ideology. Marxism is ideology, dogma, right? And Christianity is a doctrine, and Islam is not even a dream-based dogma, right? When they say that I saw in dream and he said you are the Messiah, I would say you are hallucinating. You see, dreams are, what are dreams? Shankaracharya said that your own unfulfilled desires or your own conflicts and traumas, they play a drama in your dream when Suksham Sharir is there. Karnam Sharir is not there. So that is the dream. I say that I am the queen of this Chesapeake area. I am hallucinating. I'm not. So this make-believe world, I'm amazed that scientists, when they say that we believe in Christianity, the world was created. What happened to the evolution theory? What happened to Aldous Huxley and Julian Huxley and Darwin? They were scientists. And what happened to the scientists now? You see, the vice president of Trump's.
उन लोग के because of this dharna or this bhrem, I won't even call it a dharna, this bhrem that they have some very nasty postulates that come out of it. And I will put this notion of nationhood, this Rhine-Westphalian notion कि oh, the temporal power is separate from the spiritual power and that is the basis of nationhood, and nationhood ka basis can only be race, religion or language. We are playing inside their box to their strength when we confine our definitions of Bharat to be in that category. उनके और भी बहुत खतरनाक postulates निकलते हैं. For example, all cultures are equal in value.
Yeah, not
और
all culture, all religions.
हाँ,
We are not a religion, we are dharma.
वी आर धर्म।
Yeah.
और एक और होता है, देर आर मेनी रियलिटीज। अब तो पोस्ट मॉडर्न वाले इस पर भी आ गए कि
Yeah.
देर आर मेनी रियलिटीज।
I know. Yes.
So these are all poisonous postulates that are coming from this. They're trapped in this dogma loop of history having a beginning, and obviously, like at any picture at the end, they want to be the hero who survives and not be the villain who perishes. So they are twisting themselves into these pretzels of, confound. I'm confounded by these kinds of things. They're not helping people. What is happening as a result is mental illness is on the rise, because what's happening, no sane person can make sense of all this, and therefore you see a lot of, psychological phenomenon in Western society, which, you cannot make sense of all this. So the mind breaks apart. And
Yeah,
you're
that
seeing a
is
lot of
why the
that.
younger generation is not just going, and they do not understand what's
And,
going. To
and this
me,
is where we come in,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, that
This is
is
where we come in.
disturbing. That is disturbing because even though gospel is just a made up kind of thing and has nothing to do with the ultimate reality of divinity,
Hmm.
yet it is a place where there is some kind of faith.
Hmm.
If you don't have faith in anything
Hmm.
at all, you don't have faith in society, in government, in your own self, whether you're a man or a woman, you are totally delusional. So you are lost. You are closer to the lunatic asylum. So, in order for this generation of torn people, I would say that restore the church. At least they will have some anchor. Even a broken stick is better than no stick at all.
Yeah, I really sometimes feel sorry in the sense that they just have been left in the sea with no method of steering themselves to any shore. It doesn't have a happy ending on that one.
No,
Unfortunately, a lot of our NRI people are facing the same problem because they think what they are doing is modern and progressive, and they mistake Western things for modern things, which is not necessarily the same thing.
they are getting far away from their roots and they are behaving like cut flowers. Cut flowers do not make a garden.
I have the other analogy. I say, तुम बरगद के पेड़ को गमले में उगा रहे हो, वो 2 हफ्ते से ज्यादा नहीं चलेगा.
That's true. That's true. So, anyway, so if there is no question, we end the session. Rajiv ji, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
हाँ जी. तो किसी ने कोई क्वेश्चन करना है तो करिए. Otherwise, we go to the next lesson.
Until no question, this was a very informative session. I stayed for the full hour. Thank you very much. This is Naresh.
I know. Naresh, I recognize your voice. Thank you. Thank you for making the time. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. For those who don't know, I'm traveling today, but I talked to Auntie. Yeah. Thank you. Always learning new things from you. Thank you.
okay. All right, जी. Okay.
एक रिक्वेस्ट थी कमलेश जी, वो आपके पास वो जो कार्ड आपने बताई कि ये वो हैंडी शीट है आपके सामने, यू हैव फेस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस, राइट? यू गेट थ्रोन, वो लोग आपसे छल जब करते हैं इन कॉन्वर्सेशन, ओके हाउ अबाउट ब्राइड बर्निंग, हाउ अबाउट कास्ट, हाउ अबाउट दिस, हाउ अबाउट दैट, उसकी वो एक चाहिए हमें.
Because people do not have time for reading chapter, so
Right.
I made for all of these things on paper.
अच्छा, वो कहाँ मिलेगी?
मेरे से मिलेंगी, मैंने क्रिएट किया तो मेरे पास ही
मैंने सोचा आपने कहीं डाल रखी हो।
नहीं नहीं नहीं, वो हर एक चीज का जो मैंने जो डिफिकल्टीज है ना, जो हर्डल जो क्रिएट करते हैं, तो व्हाट आई डिड, आई मेड वन पेज,
हाँ जी,
and my advice is that you keep it in your pocket. If you don't have a pocket, keep it in a purse.
ब्यूटीफुल,
And if
ब्यूटीफुल।
you cannot put it in your purse either, तो
हाँ।
माथे पे खुदवा लो। आजकल फैशन है, आजकल फैशन है वो उसका टैटू का।
I'll ask Rajiv ji for your email and then I will ask you.
Yeah, no, I will. It is on my website, I think.
अच्छा ठीक
I
है,
will put
बहुत
it on
अच्छा
the
है।
website.
अच्छा ठीक है,
One page answers on caste, one page answers on this Christianity.
वेरी गुड।
So one page answers on this Balika Badu, child marriage and stuff like that. So those one page,
हाँ जी,
yeah. Uh,
वेरी गुड मैडम, थैंक यू सो मच।
okay, Rajiv ji. In that case, meeting is over,
Okay, Kamlesh ji.
and
Thank you.
thank you very much for coming. And I beg your leave, namaste.